This is the evening news in tonight's headlines. Poultry industry can meet demand. St. Agnes primary school students locked out of the school. And a body is fished out of a canal while a man is murdered in Port Kaituma. I'm Michael Young. Thanks for joining us for your Monday, September 2, 2013 edition of the evening news. Now for a look at the news in detail. There is a projection that some 3.7 million kilograms of chicken will be consumed in September of this year. With this in mind, Agriculture Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy dismissed reports of a decline in production at the local level. Whitney Basort reports.
The local chicken industry is not incapable of meeting the growing demand for chicken on the local market. As a matter of fact, the industry has been vibrant and producing even more than in previous years. However, over the past few weeks, chicken prices have been increasing, and statistics show that the increased prices have accounted for an additional 9% hike in the usual cost. According to Agriculture Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, local poultry producers do not have a need to increase chicken prices. He maintained that the government sees no reason for this.
It is true that between March and July, the amount of hatching eggs imported into Guyana would have seen a slight decline. And you do have those ups and downs. So you have periods where it's increased. So January and February we had an increase of imports and then a decline.
Dr. Ramsamy said 90% of the chicken being consumed is hatched from imported eggs. As such, the ministry would be able to have an analysis on the amount of chicken that will be consumed on a monthly basis. He explained that if there's a demand for chicken, eventually there would be a hike in prices. However, this is only if the supply is stressed and not able to keep up with production. Guyana's local chicken industry does not lack or suffer a shortage of chicken, and it can be supplied to the market with ease. This being the fact of the matter, there is no real need for any sort of increase in prices throughout the country.
I think business have their way of looking at the market. The government of Guyana is going to be very strong and straightforward on this. Believe that there is no reason why the price of chicken should increase. I will confirm at this point that over the last several months there have been overall a 9% increase in the price of chicken. And it is my contention that there is no reason for chicken price to go up.
Dr. Ramsamy says with the granting of licensing for the importation of chicken, this has assisted greatly with eliminating chicken shortage issues in Guyana. For the evening news, Whitney Broussard.
Thanks, Whitney. The establishment of a direct air linkage between Guyana and Venezuela was among agreements signed when President of the Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, made his first state visit to Guyana on Saturday. Details in this Svetlana Marshall report.
Subsequent is red carpet welcome at the Chetty Jagan International Airport, which was complemented by a military parade. President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and his Guyanese counterpart, Donald Ramotar, signed a joint declaration ratifying a series of bilateral agreements initiated by the late Hugo Chavez. Based on the fifth meeting of the Guyana-Venezuela High-Level Bilateral Commission, which was held one day before the state visit, the two presidents agreed to strengthen collaborations in the areas of food, agriculture, education, energy, and air, land, and sea transportation.
We have already strong trade relations in the rice, in the Petro-Caribe arrangement, energy.
Como ustedes saben, ya tenemos una relación bien hecha entre del arroz y del Petrocaribe.
And now we have agreements about air connections, connections by air.
Y ahora tenemos las conexiones aéreas.
And we are also looking at maritime transport
y estamos estudiando la posibilidad del transporte marítimo.
All of which, of course, will have the great possibility of broadening our relationship.
Todo esto tendrá la posibilidad de extender más aún nuestras relaciones
And strengthen and deepening them to the benefit of the Guyanese and Venezuelan peoples.
Air linkages between Venezuela and Guyana will be made possible through Conviasa Airline, which will see more than 70 passengers being transported at least twice weekly. The Venezuelan government also offered the government of Guyana increased skills training for technicians and flight operations inspectors. Meanwhile, speaking through an interpreter, President Maduro said he was simply continuing the work of the late Hugo Chavez, who had made tremendous steps in establishing a great bond between Guyana and Venezuela following a history of disagreement. He too expressed satisfaction with the agreements made.
Hemos decidido reforzar la cooperación bilateral de nuestros países en todas esas áreas.
We have decided to reinvigorate the bilateral cooperation between the two countries in all these areas.
Fortalecer la cooperación energética.
To strengthen the energy cooperation.
Y ampliar los campos de esa cooperación.
And to widen such cooperation.
Fortalecer la cooperación comercial y los nuevos mecanismos de intercambio comercial.
To strengthen the commercial and trade mechanisms and to widen these mechanisms.
Fortalecer los proyectos de cooperación en el campo de la producción de alimentos y comercialización de alimentos para lograr la plena seguridad alimentaria de nuestro pueblo.
To strengthen the project of food cooperation, production cooperation, to strengthen the food security of both peoples.
In addition to the press conference, the two South American leaders participated in a social encounter with scores of leaders and residents from across the country in the central conference room of the Guyana International Conference Center. Reporting for the Evening News, I am Svetlana Marshall.
As the new school term commenced, grade 6 students of St. Agnes Primary School were locked out of their respective classes during the morning period. Subsequently, the Chief Education Officer, Olata Sam, visited the school and sorted out this issue. Our cameras were there and Sabatini Daniels filed this report.
Frustrated parents and guardians whose children are in grade 6 at St. Agnes Primary School voiced their anger and worry over the lack of adequate and available space at the institution. This issue is not new according to parents. As such, they called for a permanent system to be put in place to deal with this issue. One parent, Edith Norton, said no one informed her as to why the students were locked out of their classrooms, noting that even the previous night no one made an effort to contact parents.
They're not saying anything really to us. All they're saying, they're going to look into it. They leave another school to come here and they're going to look into it. But we're tired of this. We've been getting this over and over repeatedly. We're tired.
Meanwhile, Chief Education Officer Olato Sam noted that space is an issue since St. Agnes and St. Rose's High share the building. However, he disclosed that this problem was sorted out, after which students were permitted back into their respective classrooms.
And there were some, I would say, problems in relation to the understanding of how that allocation should be worked out. We've resolved those issues. We are still in the process of ensuring that all of our pupils and students are adequately placed in the entire compound so that both St. Agnes and St. Rose's can be happy with those arrangements.
Sam said a meeting between him and the board of St. Rose's was scheduled sometime during the day and stated that he will be meeting the PTA and teachers of St. Agnes as well. The CEO said the space allocation is being amicably dealt with, so there is not a recurrence of this again.
I've spoken with the two heads and we've been able to agree on which areas will belong to where. We're putting permanent systems in place to resolve all the related issues. It all would have stemmed from a space issue. All the other issues would have stemmed from a space issues. And so I can assure everyone that it's at a point now, a final point, where we shouldn't have these issues going forward.
Sabatini Daniels reporting for the Evening News.
Thanks to Sabatini, the ruling People's Progressive Party Civic has debunked comments made by the opposition about Guyana having a high youth unemployment rate. Samuel Suknandan explains.
General Secretary of the PPPC, Clement Rohi, says that despite comments made by leader of the opposition, David Granger, about high youth unemployment here, this is not a major issue for the country. Rohi said that the APNU is being hypocritical about the issue, especially since they have voted against crucial pieces of legislation for the realization of the Amila Falls hydropower project.
It is common understanding globally that cheap and reliable energy is a cornerstone for the economic development of any nation. It fuels the expansion of the manufacturing sector, attracts both foreign and local investments, and as a result creates numerous job opportunities in various fields and sectors for the skilled, semi-skilled, or unskilled labor force.
The PPPC General Secretary Ford stated that if the party is so passionate about the issue, then it should move to participate in national development and the creation of jobs for the Guyanese populace. Moving his attention to another issue, Rohi dismissed concerns raised by the opposition about the president's non-assent to a few bills passed in Parliament.
With regard to Mr. Granger's reference that the law is very clear on the issue and they hold the government in default, the PPP wishes to point out that if APNU feels so convinced that its position is grounded in law, why has it not approached the High Court after making threats to do just that since May this year at one of their press conferences?
According to Rohi, President Ramatar's non-assent to the bills was in no way political in nature and that his reasons were listed in the letter to the Speaker of the House and are grounded by the Constitution. The PPPC, he said, supports the President in standing up against the threats made by the APNU, which was purely designed to bully him to pass unconstitutional bills. Reporting for the Evening News, I'm Samuel Suknandan.
Meanwhile, the People's Progressive Party Civic has accused the opposition of misleading the public about the Amelia Falls hydropower project, which it says cannot be taken easily. More details from Samuel Suknandan.
Finance Minister Dr. Agnes speaking during a PPPC press conference today said that the opposition continues to engage in disseminating false information about the Amila Falls hydropower project. Dr. Singh believes that this is a tactic being used by both political opposition parties to justify reasons for their non-support for the project, which is now crippled. Referring to comments made by AFC leader Kemraj Ramjatan in today's newspaper about his party being unaware of the interest rate for the project, Dr. Singh said it is absurd for the AFC politician to say that.
The presentation that was made to them more than a year ago clearly indicated the interest cost. The interest cost, the total cost of financing. Even if it did not indicate the interest rate, it indicated very clearly the total cost of financing. And they had an opportunity at the time to ask, if they wanted to, what do we expect the terms of the financing to be? And at that time, we would have given them whatever information, the latest information that we had at that date.
The finance minister added that it is a known fact that concessional financing is only made available to a country based on certain criteria and only funds public sector projects under certain guidelines. He therefore reiterated that the Amila Falls project is a private sector project which the government contracts in private developers who in turn become the borrowing entities.
So to come now and to pretend suddenly not to treat this as a huge expose, some fact that has now been suddenly discovered and to manufacture a controversy surrounding this matter is nothing short of an attempt to mislead the people of Guyana. Nothing short of an attempt to mislead the people of Guyana. Let me say clearly again that the opposition by the parliamentary action inflicted damage and delay to the progress of the Amila Falls project.
The APNU, he said, is also trying to justify its action to stop the Amila Falls hydropower project even while it was a known fact that parliamentary consensus was required to ensure the project's continuity. For Evening News, I'm Samuel Suknandan.
In this report, you will hear that another stall holder in the border market area is now counting his losses after being robbed earlier today of millions of dollars in cash and other items.
Another stall in Border Market was broken into and robbed this morning of a quantity of goods as well as over $1 million in cash. The owner of the business, Narder Prasad, said that he has been operating stall number 214 for over 3 years and never had such an incident.
I called for this morning. The stall was brick. When I come, bridge. It was ramstock, as you can see. The stall. Most of the empty drawers and had some money by the carry. And the carry most of the volume of the carry. I had money in the drawer, but actually 100,000 in the drawers. Like the carry, I had some money, some US in the bag there, the next bag. I had 500 US and I had $8,000 in the next pocket, all the carry.
The distraught owner emphasized the frustration encountered as he reported the matter to the city constable. He said that the officers from the city constable did not give the necessary cooperation.
So when I went to Alberton, I bring the police, the CID, and when I carried in the constable office, the constable didn't want to give me information.
Meanwhile, this newscast was informed that the robberies on stalls have become frequent and a norm. Their complaints and pleas for help are seemingly falling on deaf ears.
I need to see some changes in the border market. There's too much of stalls getting break too often. The constabulary, they don't do nothing to protect the vendors them in the market here, right? And that is something wrong for the longest while. For the moment coming from the market, you don't see no constable inside this market protecting not stand by the stand.
Several vendors joined the distraught owner to call on the city council for improved security while expressing their concern over the deplorable condition of the market. This is Umudevi Bucks reporting for the Evening News.
More news after these messages. You tune to the Evening News. Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. Amerindian Heritage Month opened with great fanfare on Sunday with a call from President Donald Ramatar and Amerindian Affairs Minister Pauline Sukai for the indigenous community to preserve their identity. Swetlana Marshall was there and she filed this report.
The Amerindian village at the Sophia Exhibition Center came alive on Sunday evening as hundreds of Guyanese, in particular Amerindians, flocked the vicinity to get a taste of the rich Amerindian culture. President Donald Ramatar and Amerindian Affairs Minister Pauline Sukai declared a month of activities opened. Sukai said government will continue to aid in the preservation of Amerindian cultural identity, but said Amerindians must take up the mantle in this critical process.
I applaud the few villages of Region 9, and I don't want to call names, who continue to lead the way in sustaining their rich culture, keeping the balance and the uniqueness identified as indigenous. I recognize the attempts and various efforts in various other villages scattered across the hinterland and coastal regions. You will agree with me that much more work is required by all the villages and the people.
An appeal was made for the National Two Shouts Council to formally place cultural heritage on its agenda. Minister Sukai advocated also for Amerindians to follow the footsteps of Ghana's first Amerindian parliamentarian, the late Stephen Campbell, and the former Education Minister, the late Desiree Fox, who have made tremendous contribution to the development of the country.
And I urge the council, and that is the National Two Shouts Council, at the village level, to lead the required discourse on the opt-in mechanism, which set forth the menu of measures if a village consent to pledge village forest.
Meanwhile, President Ramatar said the quality of education offered to Amerindian communities has significantly improved since the People's Progressive Party Civic was voted into power in 1992. Today, he said Guyana boasts of achieving universal primary education in keeping with the 2015 Millennium Development Goals.
Now we can report proudly. That in our country as a whole, in our Amerindian communities, our hinterland communities, we have achieved universal primary education. And the facilities there have improved greatly.
He said a quiet revolution has been staged in Amerindian communities with a great quest for educational facilities as they now understand the importance of education in the transformation of their lives and communities by extension.
When you go in Region 7, in Warramadong in the Upper Mazaruni district, and you find 700 students studying at secondary schools, and they demand now, because people are recognizing the important role that education plays in their development, their own development, the development of their communities, and the development of the country. That the demand is more and more, so much so that we will have to build another secondary school in Region 7 because the structures at Warramadong are now inadequate because of the demands that are being made.
Reporting for the Evening News, I am Svetlana Marshall.
Meanwhile, First Lady Deolashmi Ramatar has extended heartfelt greetings to the indigenous peoples of Guyana during this special month that is set aside each year and appropriately designated as Amerindian Heritage Month 2013. In a message, the First Lady said, and I quote, "It is for all of us in our multicultural nation to continue to appreciate the remarkable customs, traditions, values, religious beliefs, art, craft, food, music, and dances of the diverse groupings that constitute our indigenous peoples," unquote. She said that there is a constant and constituent element of our national cultural tapestry, and we are indeed fortunate to be enriched by the heritage of our Amerindian communities. She said that indigenous peoples hold a special place in the nation's heritage. The Progressive Youth Organization of Guyana is celebrating its 61st anniversary with focus on repositioning the entity to execute its mandate of empowering youth to have a say in the decision-making structure of the economy. Whitney Passard reports.
The Progressive Youth Organization is celebrating its 61 years of existence, but apart from that, the group is also celebrating its growth over the years. At a press conference held today, PYO members spoke of the many activities and developmental initiatives that have been undertaken by the younger members of society with assistance from the head of state, Donald Ramatar. Safras Shadood, member of the PYO, in responding to questions posed by the media, stated that the president of Guyana, along with grassroots members of the party, have commended the group for the positive contributions to society.
The direction he has given was the establishment of the PYO Steering Committee, comprised of long-standing members of the PPP and long-standing members of the PYO. And they themselves play a critical role in ensuring that we continue to play in a meaningful way to further enhance Guyana's development, be it socially, in an educational manner, or even in the arena of sports. We have all made positive contributions. Currently, the blood drive, for example, we will contribute to Guyana's well-being by doing so.
He believes that the PYO is way better than before in many respects. Shadood said that youths are now given better opportunities through the group. The PYO has developed youths in communities, and that by itself is a change. Meanwhile, Stephen Singh, another vibrant member of the group, said that the PYO is committed to the development of youths in Guyana, regardless of their differences.
We have developed a great concern in this area. We believe that for every nation, it is absolutely imperative that employment is there, especially for the younger folks. As we would have mentioned in our last press conference, the PYO has liaised with the Ministry of Human Services through the Board of Industrial Training, where young persons can access training in their respective fields. We do understand that not every person might be cut out, to stay in school to attain a much necessary primary and secondary education. But persons are very good in doing things with their hands, and the Board of Industrial Training offers an opportunity for young people to go there, be trained in their respective area, graduate with a certificate, and they're almost guaranteed employment from that entity.
The PYO is preparing to celebrate its 61st anniversary on September 6th, at a time when the entity is rejuvenated and fully committed to the ideals that it stood for when its founders saw it necessary to establish the movement in 1952. For the Evening News, Whitney Persaud.
Thanks, Whitney. The decomposed body of a man was this morning fished out of a canal at Long Pond, West Bank, Demerara, while another was found at Port Kaituma, Northwest District. Bisham Mohammed was following these leads, and he filed this story.
The man's body was transported by boat after being fished out of a canal at Back Long Pond, West Bank, Demerara, where it was discovered by a supervisor of a privately owned sugar estate. The man may have died over the weekend. Up to press time, the identity of the man was unknown, but his body was taken to the Ezekiel Funeral Home, where it is awaiting a post-mortem. Naipal, the supervisor who found the body, spoke with this newscast relating what he saw.
The two workers smell the thing. While we go in, we always smell it. But this is the same church they got to go clean and stuff. I said they don't want the work no.
If you give averages to from here to how far they find it, but how far from here?
About a mile. Me go start up and watch it. We say you human being, but it just does.
But from all indication, you all know this person or so on.
No, me even not to see. When we got a report, because me supervising the worker them left and they want to go away. They said I walk back with them.
While details are still sketchy, the man is of African descent and is suspected to be in his early 40s. This newscast understands that there were no visible marks of violence on his body, but was clad in a pair of jeans and a jersey. Meanwhile, the body of another man who is suspected to have been murdered was found along the 4 miles Port Kaituma Road this morning. He was reportedly discovered by a policeman who was on a vehicle traveling to another village. The man, who is of mixed race, up to news time is still unidentified. He is said to be in his early 20s. When contacted, Crime Chief Silal Prasad disclosed that from reports coming out of the mining community, the man's body bore several marks of violence, including a broken chin. A few of his teeth were missing and laceration to his neck. The man's body was taken to the Port Kaituma Hospital for identification and post-mortem. No arrest has been made. Bisham Mohammed, The Evening News.
Mining Week 2013 concluded yesterday with a Grand Pork Knockers Day celebration at Bartica, Region 7. Samuel Supnandan reports.
Natural Resources and the Environment Minister Robert Persaud urged persons working in the mining sector to continue to serve as an inspiration and to raise the level of the sector's vibrancy. He was at the time addressing scores of persons in Bartica Region 7 to end the week of activities to mark Mining Week 2013. Persaud acknowledged the role that pork knockers play not only in developing the small industry but the mining sector.
I want to salute the pioneers. I want to salute the hard-working miners, those who invest in the sector, those who provide goods and services, and also to thank all those who've made this event another success, to thank the staff of the GGMC again for leading and organizing another successful mining week.
Persaud added that his ministry and the Ghana Geology and Mines Commission, GGMC, are committed to recognizing the pioneers who led others, allowing government to boost the sector. He reiterated the need for those pioneers to continue to serve even as the ministry endeavors to improve the sector.
It is our intention to ensure that the mining sector supports national development and support the development of mining communities. And it is also our intention to ensure that mining and those activities associated with mining are done in a way that we can make all of us proud. And I want to encourage all operators, all other stakeholders to ensure that the sector continues to grow.
Participants had the opportunity to take part in several fun competitions. There were also booths set up by the GGMC. The week's activity was observed under the theme Green, Clean and Responsible, Securing the Future of Mining. For the Evening News, I'm Samuel Suknandon.
Along with the institution of a new board of directors at the Guyana Sugar Corporation, a second level of changes will be implemented to the way operations are managed. Whitney Persaud reports.
Agriculture Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy is assured that he remains committed to his promise, which is to make changes to the board of directors of Gaisuku. According to the minister, while it is his ultimate belief that changes to management should happen, things aren't going the way they should. He holds the opinion that the weather is the major blunder in the sugar industry.
Major problems at Gaisuku has to do with the weather. So I don't want people to think that I'm saying it's bad management. However, I think in times when things are not going right, you have to make changes. One level of change, of the changes that we are committed to, is a change in the board. As I said, before the end of this month, we will have a new board in place.
He explained that to overlook a field that may have some 50,000 hectares of crops, managing 7 different factories and looking after decision-making is not an easy task. Ramsamy therefore lobbied for more changes to be made to address other fundamental issues.
A second level of changes we are making, so it's no longer under consideration, but we are making, is changes in the everyday management structure.
There will be field managers, operator managers, and to add to that, an overall director of the factory that will assist with the smooth running of the operations. For the Evening News, Whitney Persaud.
Join us after these messages for more news. You're tuned to the Evening News. Welcome back. This is the Evening News. The Home Affairs Ministry today inked a memorandum of understanding with 6 organizations which will pave the way for its House of Justice project in Regions 2 and 3 to be undertaken. Sabatini Daniels reports.
The Houses of Justice are multi-agency centers which will be established within the communities geared at addressing pressing social and safety needs of citizens at the community level. Speaking at the MOU signing, Home Affairs Minister Clement Rohi explained that the project is aimed at easing the burden people face when seeking services.
Houses of Justice will introduce a novel approach to individual concerns, conflict resolution, and limiting the everyday frustration people face. That is, the royal runaround in accessing public services by bringing together under the same roof several official institutions in charge of providing social services and public safety.
He noted that the ministry hopes the initiative will be useful and timely for persons at the grassroots level.
Every step that we could take to address these localized problems, we should take them. And the House of Justice is such a tool and such a step.
Organizations which are on board with the project are Guyana Police Force, the General Register Office, the National Insurance Scheme, the Guyana Power and Light, the Human Services Ministry, and the Community Police and Volunteers. Sabatini Daniels reporting for the Evening News.
The Nirvana Humanitarian Society over the weekend wrapped up their charity shows across Guyana with a final show at the University of Guyana Tain campus and a US $2,000 donation to the Kamal's Home for the Homeless in Albion Berbice. The non-profit organization, established since 1997, has been actively involved in the promotion and sustenance of humanitarian and cultural activities. The organization over the years has been highly commended for its community work, especially in assisting the less fortunate students on the west coast of Demerara. Recently, the organization hosted several cultural programs at the Zilat Shiva Mandir, the Astro Cinema, and the Swaraswati Vidya Nikitam School on the west coast of Demerara. The funds raised from these events will be going towards charitable programs. On Sunday, in addition to the donation made to the Kamal's Home, the group also made a donation of $100,000 to the D. Edward Village Temple construction project in collaboration with the Nikitam School, which gave $50,000 to make up the $100,000. The mother of an Irish teenager who threatened to assassinate President of Guyana, Donald Ramotar, has spoken of her relief that he has returned home safe and sound. Cecilian Crosson, a 17-year-old volunteer working with an aid group in South America, allegedly told the leader's bodyguards during a night out that he would shoot and kill President Donald Ramotar. The incident happened last March after he traveled with other colleagues from the UK-based group Project Trust to Lethem for an annual Easter rodeo near the country's border with Brazil. The teenager, who hails from Koloth, subsequently appeared before a magistrate in Guyana where he pleaded not guilty. His defense lawyer, Glenn Hanuman, told the court that an alcohol-fueled conversation took place. An incident arose with two men who stated that they were the bodyguards of the president and were trying to place him under arrest, yet they had no identification officially. It is understood that Cillian called the police himself but was then detained. Hanuman said Cillian was joking when he said that he would shoot and kill the president, and only said it as he did not believe that the two men were actually the president's bodyguards. Do stay with us. The Evening News Sport is next. Welcome back to the Evening News Sport. I'm Michael Young. For those of you who are joining us at this time, here's a look at the headlines. Alpha United win gold for gold football. Sports Ministry recognizes Golden Boy, and Guyana and TNT Red Force share T20 Series. It's now time for a look at the news in detail. The Sports Ministry today recognized the monumental achievement of Golden Boy, Mr. Surdas, who recently returned home with a gold medal in the 53 kg class at the World Junior and Sub-Junior Powerlifting Championships in Texas. In the process, the 18-year-old also became Guyana's world champion in any sport discipline. Avinash Ramzan reports.
The record-breaking Shivdas and members of the Ghana Amateur Powerlifting Federation were hosted to a luncheon on Monday to celebrate the occasion and reflect on Shivdas's historic achievement. The 18-year-old Berbician last week recorded 475.5 kilograms en route to winning the gold medal in the 53 kilogram sub-junior class. His closest rival was USA's Dalton Lacour, who finished a distant second with a total of 425 kilograms in the bench press, squat and deadlift. In recognizing Shivdas's heroics, President of the Federation, Peter Green, said the title could not have been achieved without the support of the Sport Ministry.
I must tell you, between the Minister and the Permanent Secretary of Sport, they grilled me, but I was able to convince them that this money was worth spending, over $900,000. Now, have you seen for yourself, history has been created. History is created. Here we have first only 18 world champion in a recognized sport in the world and any sport in this country. You can't match that.
Sport Minister Dr. Frank Anthony said Shivdas's achievement is just another means of solidifying Guyana's status as a Caribbean powerhouse in powerlifting.
You know, before they'll think that, all right, this is a fluke. But now that we are churning out champions, they'll be looking at us more closely, and we have now records to defend. So if we take it light, then we will not be able to defend those records. So I'm very, very proud of the achievements of the Powerlifting Federation, but this means that there's an expectation that we'll have to work even harder.
Permanent Secretary in the Sport Ministry, Alfred King, while acknowledging the efforts of Shivdas, noted that it is imperative lifters and sportsmen and women alike do the right things to ensure success.
You can very well attract for yourselves a similar treatment like you would find now in Jamaica, where every athlete is being looked at closely, and therefore keeping the sport clean and keeping the athlete clean should be something you'd want to pay some attention to as well. It's growing, the interest is there, and of course, you know the big talk about fair play these days.
Man of the moment, Shivdas, speaking to local media operatives, said he was not at all surprised by his performance at the championships.
I push myself harder. Well, I go there with the expectation of bringing home back the championship. So I had no doubt. So I just had to do what I go there to do.
Shivdas' father, Brojnarayan Shivdas, said he's very elated with the win, noting that it means a lot to his family, who resides in Line Path, Skeldon.
Well, you had to find word to explain. So very proud.
Were you surprised by the performance?
I'm not too surprised, but still, it's like you know that thing. But by every competition, you develop easier goals. So someday must achieve good things.
Gumendra Shivdas and officials of the Ghana Amateur Powerlifting Federation also met with President Donald Ramatar at the office of the President on Monday morning.
Thanks, Avinash. Alpha United Football Club emerged as the champions of the Goal for Gold football tournament on Sunday evening with a 4-2 drubbing of the host Slingers Football Club at the Georgetown Football Club ground. Tristan Joseph witnessed the action and has details in this report.
Alpha United Football Club delivered a hammer of a blow to host Slingers Football Club in the final of the Goal for Gold football tournament that concluded on Sunday evening at the Georgetown Football Club ground. 6 goals were shared between the two teams in the final as Alpha United hammered in 4 out of the 6 to win the encounter comprehensively, asserting themselves as a top club in the nation. 2 early goals from Dwight Peters in the 29th minute and Kitson Bain in the 34th minute put the hosts at an early disadvantage as the first half ended 2-1 with Colin Nelson scoring for Slingers FC in the 44th minute to end the half. The second half, while having a quicker pace along with more urgency being shown from the Slingers side, was no different than the first as Andrew Murray Jr. of Alpha United doubled with goals in the 49th minute and the 61st minute to seal the win. Devon Millerton dropped in a consolation goal in the 63rd minute as the game later expired to give Alpha United the win. In the female encounter prior to the men's final, Georgetown toppled Bartica 4-0 with goals from Sasha James in the 2nd and the 22nd minutes, while Nishana Costello scored in the 14th minute and Andrea Lashley in the 54th minute. The presentation of the prize money and trophies is expected to take place on September 4th.
Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago Red Force shared the 2-match warm-up T20 Series with close victories at the weekend at the Ghana National Stadium. The warm-up games were held to give the Red Force much-needed practice as they prepare to represent the Caribbean in the Champions League T20 in India later this month. Avinash Ramzan has the details.
In the first match on Friday evening, the Red Force won by 11 runs in a low-scoring affair. Batting first, the Red Force made 134 for 7, with Lyndall Simmons hitting 34, Nicholas Puran 33, and Evan Lewis 26. Veersamy Permaul and Krishmar Santoki picked up 2 wickets each for Guyana, who replied with 123 for 7 when the overs ran out. Leon Johnson led the way with a responsible 41, while Christopher Barnwell made 22. Bowling for the Red Force, Riyad Emrit claimed 3 for 10, and Samuel Badre 2 for 14. In Game 2 on Saturday night at the same venue, a total team effort from the Guyanese ensured they defeated the Red Force by 12 runs to level the series. Batting first after winning the toss, Guyana's innings was in the balance at 66 for 2 in the 12th over before opener Robin Backus and skipper Barnwell took the game away from the Red Force with a blistering partnership of 7-1 from just 42 balls. While Backus took 62 balls for his top score of 60, Barnwell was at his destructive best, hitting an unbeaten 47 from 27 deliveries with 3 fours and 3 sixes. Once again, Riyad Imrit was the pick of the Red Force bowlers, picking up 3 for 37 to follow up his 3-wicket haul in a winning effort on Friday night. The Red Force innings was jolted from the onset as Santoki removed Adrian Bharat of the first delivery and then followed up with the wicket of Nicholas Sugdeo Singh in the same over. The left-arm seamer returned to bowl Jason Mohammed in the third over, and with the score in 4 for 3, the Twin Islanders seemed destined for a massive defeat. Skipper Dinesh Ramdin was dismissed by the impressive Keon Joseph at 22 for 4 before Evan Lewis 54 and Ganga repaired the damage with a partnership of 7-4. However, once Santoki returned to remove Lewis and Barnwell added the scalps of Ganga and the dangerous Nicholas Pooran in the space of 8 runs, the writing was on the wall for the Red Force. Emrit, 21 not out, and Navin Stewart, 10 not out, hit a few lusty blows in the dying stages of the game, but the task proved beyond the lower order as the Guyanese enjoyed the better of the exchanges in match 2.
Remember, you can read about these stories in tomorrow's edition of the Guyana Times, and when you're not reading the newspaper or watching TVG Channel 28, please tune into Radio Guyana 89.3, 89.5 and 89.7 FM. And now for a look at your bridge reports. The Demerara Harbour Bridge will be closed on Tuesday, September 3 at 14 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. The Berbice River Bridge will be closed on Tuesday, September 3 at 15 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. That's your Monday, September 2, 2013 edition of the Evening News. I'm Michael Young. Thank you very much for joining us and encouraging you to do join us tomorrow for a look at our morning news with Samuel Suknandan. Goodbye.